Excellent. So good morning and welcome back to Edible York. We're looking again at how our seed planting has gone on, how our little seedlings are doing. And also it's the 30th of April. So we're looking forward to May and what we can be planting next in the next sort of couple of weeks. So what we started off with about 4 weeks ago was planting cucumbers and things like broad beans and peas and things like that. So beginning of March, we can do things on the windowsill when it's not quite so warm outside, and we can sort of get things going. So now that we're at the end of April, we've kind of got to it's the last chance to plant and sow those sort of earlier seeds. So if we have a look at some of the packets for these, here's one of my little Ildi tomatoes that I planted right at the very beginning. And most of these will say, so this one says, so January to March for outdoor sowing, outdoor plants, so March to April. So we're kind of coming to the end of those particular early season things. So tomatoes, peppers, cucumber, broad beans, etc. It's really your last chance to get those in for a nice summer crop. If you did plant them early on, so you're going to be looking at sort of keeping these going and planting them out in May, once the last chance of the frosts have passed. So I'm trying to harden these off and put them outside when it's a nice warm day, but the last couple of days have been quite cold, so bringing them in at night to stop them being frosted by an occasional drop in temperature. But so if you haven't planted things like tomatoes and cucumbers and broad beans, then now's your chance this week. Get those in. So other than that, we've also had a look over the weeks at planting things like peas. So things like peas, we've got the chance to put my first lot of peas in right at the very beginning. It's one of the first sowings that I did, and I put a second lot in a couple of weeks ago. So those are coming up quite nicely. And the reason I put a second lot in is that peas don't have a very long season. So they'll probably crop for about 3 weeks. So it's useful to have maybe different types, but certainly a few peas sort of over a sort of 5 or 6 week period, a few plantings of peas, so that once the first ones start cropping, as they're coming to the end, you've got a succession of new plants that can also provide you with some extra crops. So things like peas often do say to plant a succession. And what a succession means is so that you've got some new ones coming on as the old ones are starting to reach their peak and just go over. So most of the peas that we've been putting out around York in our seed share areas are dwarf peas. So the smallest peas will tend to only grow to sort of 2 foot or 60 centimetres tall. So they don't need a lot of tying in or propping up or big poles or anything. They'll usually do okay, just sort of grown in a big pot. Maybe you could put a couple of little twigs and things just to help them climb up, because they send out little tendrils. So most of the peas that we've been putting out there, Kelford and Wonder and the sugar snap peas and the Mange 2 peas that have gone out, they're all usually fairly short peas. Even the tallest peas, they tend to only grow to sort of 3 foot tall. So some of the original sort of peas are a little bit taller, and you need bamboos or whatever to hold those up. So we've got an interesting pea to take a look at today, and this is one of the heritage variety peas, and it's a churcha pea. So this one's quite interesting, and this is one of the peas that I'm going to take a look at planting today. And this gives me a sort of different pea to look forward to, and the churcha peas have, it's an old heritage variety, and they do grow a little bit taller, and they have blue flowers. And interestingly, they also don't have as many peas in their pod. So they tend to just have sort of 3 peas to a pod, but they produce lots and lots and lots of pods. So these church peas, again, also are out around our seed share areas. So you can go and help yourself to a few of those and try those out as well. Again, they can grow in a pot outside. I'd say sort of maybe 3 or 4 peas to a reasonably large pot, reasonably deep. Give them a little bit of height to grow up if you're growing these churcha peas. The smaller ones, we don't need to stake them. But that'll give you something a little bit more interesting to have a go at planting if you've already tried some peas. So here's one trick that one of our members recommends, is that the dried peas that you tend to get in packets, they're preserved so that we can sort of keep them for a year, couple of years, and plant them out whenever we're ready. So they kind of need to realise that it's time to grow. So one of the things that we can do is just put them in water for an hour before planting, or overnight, the night before, and just soak them a little bit, and that'll kind of wake up those seedlings. So we're going to have a look at planting those, and I'm also going to have a look at the other successional sowing thing, is I'm going to have a look at lettuce. So let's take a look at the peas to start off with. Again, like before, I'm going to grow these peas in a pot. It could be a yogurt pot, a sort of tall yogurt pot. So I've got a little bit of depth for those pea seeds to send their roots down into. And I've already put a little bit of soil in here, and I've packed it down. And I've soaked the peas for an hour before starting, but I'm also going to want to just wet that compost in there before we start. So I've got a pot, I've got some compost in there. It's about sort of that far from the top of the pot, and I've pressed down the compost. And then I can just take these peas that I've been soaking, and I can just pop them on the surface of the compost. I don't have to press them in too hard, particularly if you've soaked them overnight. They're not quite as tough. So I'm just going to pop them onto the top of the surface of the compost there. Yeah. So you can put sort of 6, I've gone for it and put 9 in there. And then as soon as they've started growing and they're at the sort of height that, probably another sort of 3 or 4 days beyond that, I could plant them out into the bigger pot outside. But because this week has turned out quite cold, I'm still thinking, actually, I'll rather set these off on the windowsill, get them going nicely. It's down to sort of 4 or 5 degrees at night out there, so they're not going to be particularly excited about coming out to play in that sort of temperature. So I'm going to start those off on the windowsill just because it's got chilly this week. So I've still got a gap of about much at the top there. So I'm just going to put my extra bit of compost on top of those. It means that when the shoots start coming up, they've got a little bit of support. They're going to grow through that compost and not fall over. So I've then got my peas ready there. So as I do tend to plant quite a few things, it's always best if I go and write a label so I know exactly what I've planted. And what I want to do with that is I don't want to water it from the top too much, but I do want to either put a sort of plastic cover over the top of it to keep that dampness in there, or put it inside a plastic bag until the peas start coming out of the top there. So that one will keep those fairly happy. So we've got my next set of peas underway, and I've got some different peas to try there. So the other thing to talk about today is about the lettuce that we've been planting so far, and what lettuce I might be looking to plant to keep me going a little bit later through the summer. So originally, right at the start, we had a go at planting some cut and come again lettuce, and in about after a couple of weeks, I planted it out in this planter. So what I've got is over here, I've got some cut and come again lettuce, and that's now sort of starting to be ready to crop once it's sort of 4 inches or so, 8 centimetres high. Then you can start to cut some of those leaves and add them to your salad or add them to your sandwich. I've also got a little bit of rocket here that I planted in a pot on my windowsill, and then I've planted out here again a couple of weeks ago, and it's really starting to take off. These have been outside, they're very happy outside to crack on and do their things. So I've got 2 lots of cut and come again lettuce and a little bit of rocket in the middle there, and that's starting to get to a nice size so I can start to cut some of the leaves. So if you do have cut and come again lettuce, sometimes you see people sort of snipping it right off. You don't want to take it too low down. You want to take some of the leaves off each plant. I tend to feel sorry for the plants and only take some of the leaves off each plant rather than cutting the whole thing away. And that lets them grow again. And most of the cut and come again lettuce, you can take about 4 cuttings off it, let it grow again for a couple of weeks, take another cutting, let it grow again for a couple of weeks. So we've got sort of 4 cuttings of lettuce that you can take off them before they go, oh, I've had enough now. So that'll keep me going for the next few weeks for nice little spicy salad leaves. The other ones that you maybe be growing instead are some bigger lettuces. So the cut and come again lettuces like these, say, make regular sowings every 2 to 3 weeks. So that means that as we're starting to cut these, you can plant some new lettuces, and then as those ones start to fade away, then you've got some new ones on the way. So that one, yeah, handily says, ready to harvest within 3 weeks. Mine's 4 weeks now, so I'm very happy with that being outside. It takes slightly longer, but I'm happy to be cropping that now. The other lettuces that you might want to grow if you're looking for something a little bit bigger rather than just the cut and come again lettuce is some of these sort of larger lettuces. So I've got some big tubs outside, and I've got one raised bed that's sort of 1 metre 20, 4 foot or so by 4 foot. So I can put some of these larger lettuce in there. And again, what I tend to do with these larger lettuces is I just go and grab some leaves when I want them in a salad. You don't have to pick the whole lettuce. If you're not going to sell it to a supermarket, why pick the whole lettuce all at once? You can just go and grab some fresh lettuce as you need it, and you don't get that bag of salad going off in the fridge. So I think lettuce is one of those great things to have outside the front door in a big tub, or in a square foot bed, 4 foot by 4 foot square foot gardening. You can put a couple of those square feet full of lettuce, and that's a really nice one. So here's some that I, again, set off about 4 weeks ago. So I've got some sort of fairly nice sized lettuces now that will be ready to plant out in the next week. And those can then grow to a larger lettuce there, and then I can start to take some of the leaves off and just use that lettuce as I need to through June and through July. So I've got a mixture of lettuce there. I quite like these sort of dark red ones. And then there's some that are slightly frillier and some plain green ones. So those are going out into our seed share areas this weekend. So you can go and get some mixed lettuce there to start growing those as well. Okay. So those are a couple of things that we started off earlier. And the other thing that I'm very excited to show you is I planted out this little tub and just grew it outside. These ones didn't start inside. I just started growing these outside 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they're the rocket salad that I put in one row, and they're just starting to come along nicely. But the other row that I've started growing there is radishes. So these radishes at this side, I'm hoping you can just see that we're just starting to get the red radishes starting to form there. So another couple of weeks and those will be ready to pick. So if you do like radishes, this is another ideal one for successional sowing. So do a row like that. As they're starting to look like they're forming proper radishes, we can plant another row of seeds. And then as they're getting to this stage, you're starting to crop these ones. So we've got a sort of succession of every 2 to 3 weeks, planting a few more seeds. And then the error I made when I first started doing radishes was I planted a big long row. So of course, I got 30 radishes all ready at once and then nothing for the rest of summer. Lesson learned. So successional sowing is a great thing. And then the final one, as we're just reviewing what we were sowing, this is my mustard seed from last week. After about 3 days, it just started to send out its little roots, and there were 1 or 2 ever so slight green bits. And now I've actually got, after 7 days, I've actually got some proper little seedlings growing there with my mustard and cress. And probably after 10 to 14 days, then you can start cutting that to put that on your sandwiches. And if you want to do successional sowing every couple of weeks, you can create another little pot like that. It'll cut once and then it'll grow back a little bit. But then this one doesn't have any compost. It's only growing in water on a little kitchen towel, if you remember. So after a couple of cuts, that's going to give up. So every 2 weeks, you could plant some new mustard and cress there to try those out. Oh, hello, Sarah and Lainey. Lainey says, yay for radishes. And she got some really huge ones last year. Fantastic, Lainey. They are quite exciting having your own radishes. And some of the radish packets have some different colours. So these ones are a sort of red and white variety. You can also get some slightly yellowy radishes and some long ones or some round ones. So there are all sorts of different radish varieties. So I put some Saxa ones out. These are radish sparkler. So these are going out this week along with some of our lettuces and the mustard and cress, of course. Okay, so what I'm going to do this week, I should maybe be doing my radishes in another pot that I can leave outside, but what I really want to get underway is my lettuce. So I've got some that are going to be going into my square foot bed outside in the next week, but I want to set some more seed off so that again I don't get a glut of lettuce and then nothing. So this one will keep me going. It'll start going out in another month, so that will be growing through June and be ready in July, and the stuff that I'm putting out here will keep me going through June. So lettuce salad bowl mixed here, and I'm going to grow this on a windowsill, grow it bigger, and then plant it out. I do have a problem with slugs in my garden, and I'm not happy about putting slug pellets out because I've got hedgehogs around. I love my wildlife in my garden. So what I tend to do is grow my plants a little bit bigger before I put them out, and then use coffee grounds and eggshells around them to deter the slugs, but I'm not actually killing anything off. I'm just sort of protecting them a bit by growing slightly bigger plants and giving them the best chance. So I'm going to grow these on inside to start off with, and then maybe sit it outside on sunny days, but I'm going to plant the lettuce. I've put one of these tubs, you could just use a yogurt tub, and I've put the soil sort of that far in so far. Compost. And I'm just going to water that before I put my lettuce seed in there, get it nice and damp, because the seeds for the lettuce here, unlike the peas, I can't really soak this seed beforehand, so I'm just going to put it on a damp bed of compost. And I've got my lettuce seed there, tiny little seeds, of course, and these ones are sort of slightly longer seeds. If you get the rocket and some of the mixed leaves, you'll have some long thin seeds and you'll have some little tiny round seeds. So lettuce varies depending on the type, but these mixed salad bowl ones are long thin seeds, and I'm just going to sprinkle it fairly liberally over the top there, and it's going to be really hard to see because these are dark seeds on top of dark compost. But I don't know whether you can see there, we've got some of those seeds just showing up on the top there. Spreading it fairly thinly because it's fresh seed. If you do have seed from 2 or 3 years ago, just put more in. It won't all germinate, but you'll still get some of it germinating. So this is fresh seed, so I don't need to use quite so much. And then I'm just going to put a little bit of compost on the top there, not very much, because these are very tiny seeds. So generally the bigger the seed, the deeper you plant it. But these are very little tiny lettuce seeds, so I'm just putting a very small amount of compost on top of those, just to give them something to grow up through, so that as soon as the seed comes up, it doesn't topple over. So that was watered, and then I put compost on the top. I'm not watering it again. That compost on the top is just to hold the lettuce seeds in place. And again, I'm going to put that on my windowsill in under a little cover like that, so that the seeds don't dry out. And then I can leave it to grow, and they'll probably come up in about sort of 7 days, 10 days, something like that. So we've got some peas on the go, we've got some lettuce seed on the go, and we're thinking of that sort of successional sowing. Things to think about extra sowing for, we might plant extra sort of peas, extra lettuce, extra red radish, extra mustard and cress. Those are the sort of things that you might want to plant again if you planted 2 or 3 weeks ago. So that'll keep you going nicely through the summer as the days lengthen and you want to have a barbecue and some salad to go with it. Then that lettuce is going to be great for that. So definitely plant those. Have a think about planting your radishes. We're also putting lots of mustard and cress seeds out in our seed share areas. Those went out last week, so hopefully you've had a chance to go and pick some of those up if you want. And if you fancy doing some different type peas, then do go and get yourself a small handful of the chichecha peas and try those out as well this week. So thanks for coming on and listening again. Sarah's saying she does appreciate my little labels made from an old yogurt pot. Just cut up an old yogurt pot and then